Okay, so what I am picking now is, well, first up, I'm going to pick this particular Abloy Profile. I don't have the key for this. It's what I used to call right bump, and it's got an outer tooth on the back disc, which is on the left hand side. This is the worst of the Abloy Profiles in my opinion to make a tool for, because, no, scratch that, this one's one of the best, because the 90 degrees that you have to work in is uninhibited, except for the tooth at the very back. The bad ones, it's this one. This is the really nasty one. So this is the 90 degrees that you've got to have your tensioner and pick in, and you've got a lump, the profile there, which chokes off more space. I was going to do an unboxing video, but I screwed up the video on the unboxing, and you can only really do an unboxing video once. So instead I'm just going to pick this lock. I'm using a universal Abloy Profile pick. Most Abloy Profile picks that exist out there, you'll have different tensioners for broad groups of profiles. This one I've engineered so that one tensioner picks all profiles, all the ones out there, with one exception, and that exception is this rather interesting beastie here. So this is what Abloy used as the safety deposit boxes. As you can see, it's got an outer tooth at the front. This one also has an outer tooth at the back as well, and no inner profiling. Now the interesting thing about this is this front profile disc is fixed, so this ensures the key is fully inserted before you can turn it. And yeah, see, and you've got this cut out along the key to accommodate for that tooth. You also get this profile where the front disc free spins, so you've got the outer tooth there on the outside, but the front disc just spins on gambling machines and casinos and that sort of thing. This profile requires another tool. I'm putting it in air quotes, and I will make that tool soon and do a video of it. But let's say you're in the field, I'd be very tempted just to get a small needle file and just go and just file away at that outer tip. Then you can use a normal or this Abloy Profile pick, or most standard ones, and just pick away as normal. Now I'm not one for destructive entry at all. I'd call this semi-destructive, because the original key will still work. I don't have the key for this lock, by the way. I thought I did, and man, I've been looking for it, and it's a stupid question to ask, but do you ever lose keys? Like, if you're into locks, yeah, of course you lose keys. But I swear I had a key to this lock, and I'll be fucked if I can find it, and it is driving me nuts. But anyway, this has full skates because it's an Abloy and it's half decent quality. I say half decent, I'm not a big fan of the cam locks, the profile cam locks. The padlocks, so this is a typical American profile, it's just centre lump, I used to call that. And this is another one. So anyway, those padlocks are real pigs to pick. But the cam locks, nah, I don't think they're up to much. So, a quick word about how Abloy designate different profiles of lock. You have 3 letters. Each profile disc has its own letter. Oh, there we go, that's picked now. Can we see that? Let's just check on the old video, we can see that cam spinning there. I'm not going to be gutting it, because I'm going to go straight ahead and pick a different profile to show you that this tool is happy for quite a few different profiles. This is the next one. This is the one that I was on about, which is the nasty one. So you've got space choked off. I do have the key for this one. So anyway, these three letters. Three possible positions you can have a profile plate: front, middle or rear. Each letter refers to the position front, middle or rear. The common one in Europe is OAL. Not AOL, OAL. And that would be an O profile plate at the front, an A in the middle and an L at the rear. An A, incidentally, is just a plain semicircular cutout, like a traditional Abloy Classic disc. Interestingly, I'll pick this one after I've done this, but this is a AAA profile, so it looks just like an Abloy Classic, but it's got a profile key. It's got no profile on it, but it's got the larger diameter, and it's AAA, so you've got an A profile plate at the front, middle and rear, an A being just the basic semicircle, so it's just basically a big Abloy Classic. I believe they're also called just A profiles as well. I'll pick that one in a minute. Here we can see the tool is just as happy living in this reverse profile of the last one. It'll pick the centre bump ones, and that outer tooth at the rear can be almost in any position at the rear, except for the very extremes of sort of 0 and 90 degrees. This can cope with any position of that outer tooth at the rear. It can cope with any position of the inner tooth at the front, or whatever you have in the middle. And like I say, the only real exception is that one that's got the outer tooth right at the front. And if you've got a file, it works for that one too. This one feels a bit gnarly inside. Could it be that I've tightened this up too much? Cam locks are never attached to their thing that they're guarding. Clamped like this, they're always screwed from the front or the back. Sometimes if you clamp stuff up in a vise too much with disc locks like this, it can pinch on the discs and it'll feel like the disc's binding even though it's not. I'm not getting anything off this lock at the minute. Crank up the tension a little. Okay, there's a binder. Better. Okay, she's starting to sing now. I swear this is take number 700 of this video I've tried to make tonight. You know, on those nights where everything goes wrong. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Everything's in a gate or another. I'm just going to go up and down and feel for the force gates. After this, we've got a baton, which is an Abloy knockoff of this profile, which got no false gates in. Really very interesting. Or the AAA, or one of those nasty padlocks. We can't have the video gone forever, obviously. One of the things I'm doing here is actually using sound to my advantage. So the false gate can sound a bit like the real gate, but the binder will be silent. That's what I'm feeling for, or listening for. The silent disc. So we know that is wrong. It's this front one. Let's go with that. That's wrong. Feels really close. That was a 1. You can hear it click, click, click. See, there's nothing on that one. That's wrong. There we go, it's picked. Abloy actually mentioned it in one of the patents that you can use sound in order to help pick some of their locks, which is quite interesting. It's something that they knew about and tried to mitigate in some of the later locks. What they exactly did to mitigate it, I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe they introduced the spring to the sidebar, so that there was always an upwards pressure on the sidebar, keeping it pushed up against the edge of the shell, so that if you tried to listen to it, it wasn't quite so obvious. You wouldn't get that rattle because there'd be pressure on it. I think maybe that's what the reasoning was. You do see that in a lot of Abloy locks now. Let's do the AAA. This one's interesting because I thought, oh, I'll just pick I got this from LockOn in a swap deal. Now, I thought, oh, I'll just pick it with the Abloy Classic. But there's a problem, and that's this has anti-pick discs in it too, which is the ones with the cutout in the middle of it. So the Abloy Classic has a pick tip of 6mm outer diameter, and the cutout anti-pick discs, oh, it's so close. The cutout is maybe 5.9mm, so it only has to move a tiny bit and it goes into those anti-pick discs and doesn't pick the lock. So even though this has no profile on it, I am using a profile pick. This, incidentally, is one of the ones with the sprung sidebars in, so the cam locks I think are a bit naff. This has a sprung sidebar in and is a little better quality, well, definitely better quality. And a step up again would be the padlocks. And depending on the time, I might pick a padlock too. Let's see where we're at now. Okay, maybe not. We're at 12 minutes now, so I'll pick this one and we'll call it a day. Maybe I'll do the padlock in another video. This is definitely harder to pick than the cam locks. Doesn't really do much for the universality of my pick because, like I say, it's just a semicircle AAA profile. Hey, it's a fun lock to pick, right? Something doesn't feel quite right there. There we go. Better. I'm still getting some sound back out of the lock. I happen to think sound is a criminally underused aspect in a criminally underused weapon in the arsenal of a lockpicker. We've used it on safes for forever, and of course there's the MCS attacks now, which utilise sound and magnetic attacks. But it has a role to play in disc detainer lock picking, pin tumbler picking, lever lock picking. If you get no sound, you know it's wrong. It doesn't matter what the system, you know it needs to move. That's all you need to know in order to pick any locking system. All you need to know, is it right or is it wrong? It really is as simple as that. I'm going to leave that in the 5 position, I think. That disc. One of the tips and tricks I've found is on the better locks you'll get false gates, like in the 0 and the 5, especially on Abloy Profile. You get false gates in the 0 and 5 position, which is not something you get on Classic, not really. and if you get binding in each of your false gates and everything feels stiff, so each gate feels like it's binding, then, and one of those gates happens to include a 5 cut, then it'll be the 5 cut. It's a very, very useful tip. That's better. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Like I said, this is a better lock than the cam locks, without a doubt. Back on the front disc. So now it's going to be a 0. The second one has binding in all of the gates. There we go. So we know it's a 5. Can we see this? Yeah, I think we can see this. Lock picked. And that is the AAA profile, which is a pretty rare lock. And just to show it working with the key, yawn. I'm not going to gut it, this video is already long enough. And that's the Universal Abloy Profile pick. Dankeschön, au revoir, ciao.